fixing the broken rung. The so-called broken rung metaphor refers to data that suggests when it comes to internal promotions, women are often passed over in lieu of their male colleagues. Women's biggest hurdle to advancement is at the first critical step as a manager. For every 100 men promoted from entry level to manager, 87 women are promoted. As a result of this broken rung, women fall behind and can never catch up with men. Because of the broken rung, in a typical company, men end up holding 60% of manager level positions, while women hold just 40%. As a result, there are fewer women to promote to director, and the number of women decreases at every subsequent level. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our panel discussion on fixing the broken rung. I am Pradnya Himane. I'm the moderator today. I am part of the learning and development team at Johnson Controls. So we are honored to have a group of accomplished experts with us today, and I'll let each one of you introduce yourself. Jyoti, I would like to start with you.
Soruja here.
Hello. Soruja.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm Soruja Yasmin Mazumdar. I'm a senior director at Publicis Sapient. I lead digital business transformation for our financial services clients, and I'm also a faculty in our transformation leadership program. I'm very focused on growing leadership within the organization, as well as, and specifically focusing on women leadership. Otherwise, personally, I'm a mother of two, and I live in Bangalore. Thank you.
Jyoti, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Jyoti Gautam. I'm heading the transformation and innovation function in enterprise IT in Ericsson. Extremely privileged and very excited for today's discussion. Personally, I'm a mother of two daughters, so it makes it more personal for me.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rachana. I head the HR for Motorola R&D India, and I'm very excited to be part of this panel. I think the topic is very close to our heart, so you'll listen to a lot of personal experiences as well. And my role mainly has been so far in terms of organization transformation and leadership coaching. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Venkatesa, part of Equinix, Senior Director of IT, and I lead engineering at Equinix. I'm proud to say I'm father of two kids, a daughter and a son, and really happy to be part of this audience. And now I've been telling some of these people, right, that I'm the diversity candidate here in this panel, right? So it's really, really making me happy to be part of this panel, but really, want to kind of learn from you, understand, this is something that we are really pursuing at our organization in terms of, promoting diversity. So great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask my first question to Soruja and Rachana, and feel free to add in. What are some common challenges organizations face in retaining diverse talent, particularly at the entry and the mid-level positions?
I can
Sure.
go first. So I think many of you may have read about this research, which says that, women tend to become more confident as they get into 40 plus. And they become more confident about themselves and about their abilities and what they can do. But it's completely the opposite when specifically women are in their 20s and 30s. And that's exactly the career stage that we are talking about. It is in that particular stage of their life, right, where it is very easy for women, it becomes very easy for women to give up, to quit when there is a problem. And I really relate this to myself, right? I became a mother when I was around 23, and my daughter, in those days we used to have just 3 months of maternity leave. So I took 1 month before because of some complexities, and I went back to office after 2 months, leaving a 2-month child at home. At that point of time, I didn't realize that, I could go and talk to somebody about asking for more leaves or, giving me some more flexibility of working less hours or working few days, working from home, because the environment in those times was not the case, where you could go and have that open conversation. I think I continued to remain because at that point of time, one is I was determined to be resilient and continue to be in the workforce. I also had, my husband was very supportive. I had a lot of support from my family, and that helped me to continue. But not everyone is privileged to get that kind of a support during those years of your life, and hence it becomes extremely important that as organizations we realize that there is sensitization done at all levels so that managers, senior managers, as well as colleagues understand the need to support women at that point of time. In fact, I also remember reading this book, Lean In, by Sheryl Sandberg, who was the CEO of Facebook. And one thing that caught me in that book was that she mentioned that she was in one of the conferences talking about a particular topic. And then the moderator told her that, last few minutes left, you can only take 2 more questions. So once she said that, all the women, after those 2 questions were answered, all the women had put their hands down, whoever have raised their hands. But men continued to raise their hand, and she in fact took some more questions from some of those men. And later on she was thinking about it that, why does it happen so, right? Women put their hands down at the slightest of telling that, you need to put your hands down. But men continue to raise their hands. So I think, again, as organizations, we really have to identify those behaviors, right? Wherever women are putting their hands down, what is it that we do to continue to encourage them to put their hands up? Because even when you put your hands down as women, even the most, even the manager with all the right intention might not notice you because you are not persisting, you're putting your hands down. And that happens again in those early career stages of your life. So as an organization, I think there's a lot that can be done. We talk, most of us, right, across all of the organization today, we're talking about DEI. But I think what we need to really focus on is that how do we make DEI a part and culture of the organization rather than a tick box? How do you make sure that it becomes a way of life? Again, I want to quote some examples of some of the things that I personally do at my team level, right? Like I have a team, it's huge, right? Almost around 900 to 1,000 people, and we run a Ask Me Anything session every week. And in that session, we allow people to ask questions anonymously, whatever is in their mind. Because many a times, people feel that if they have to name themselves, then they might not want to ask the question. You need to create multiple forums wherein people can feel safe to ask questions. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing that is, again, done in our organization is that one-to-one is a mandatory meeting that everybody needs to have with the supervisor. I think that's common in every organization. But one of the things that we talk about is that that meeting has to be that meeting or catch-up has to be focused on the individual. When as a manager you take genuine interest with the person that you are talking to, you show that you are genuinely interested in they becoming better and in listening to them. People open up and talk about all of these, personal level things that are going on in their life, which is what you can support. But if people don't open up, because at that age, women are not confident. Like I did not open up at that age. And probably if I would have been given that support, I could have opened up. So therefore, I think all of us as leaders in the organization, as well as, individuals in the organization have to look for those behavior, see when women are putting their hands down, and see, how we can pull them up back again. I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I can completely resonate with that, not putting the hand up. I mean, when I had a small child, I never thought that I can go and talk to anybody about this, right? And the byproduct of that is the guilt. So I think a lot of organizations are now waking up and, kind of noticing that. Rachana, would you like to add something?
Yeah. So talking about challenges, I would want to add more to Soruja. So earlier the thinking was we do not have more representation or diversity in the C-suite, right? But the research says that from 2015 till now, we've moved from a 17% to 28%. So that shows that the improvement is happening. So where are the challenges? So it's in the mid-management where women are unable to move, and they hit the ceiling. So we heard about this great breakup, what happened during the pandemic, right? So why did women leave the workforce and chose what they want to do? So this is because organizations did not show them the confidence that they have a way through for their career development, or they did not give them the confidence. So I guess having those policies in place, having those initiatives in the organization to find out where the women employees have these challenges at the mid-level will actually help. And at this point, I definitely would want to bring in, because we've spoken about why women are scared to bring up their opinions. Microaggressions at work. I think all of us would have heard about this, right? So this is very, very impactful. And in a survey, 64% of the women say that, they're spoken over or their opinions are not heard, right? And 11% of them say that people think they are in a meeting to arrange food or take up the mom points, That's how they've been treated. So, and 32% of the women feel that the contributions, what they do, are never recognized and someone else takes the cake. So these are some of the things which, as an organization, if people are voicing their opinions, we need to see how to sensitize at all levels. It has to be at the manager level, people managers, especially how you can put it as part of their performance goals. How many companies actually have diversity goals for their managers, and do we track it? Do we reward those managers who actually achieve their diversity goals? I don't think we have too many companies doing that, right? So I think as an organization we need to start thinking in these directions, and also sensitize people that they can come up and speak if they go through these microaggressions. And one example is on the maternity I would want to add. I've heard women who, postpone their pregnancies because of the fear of losing promotions or a role change or, anything which can impact their career. So that's how difficult it is for a woman in the talent industry. So I would want to stop with this note. Yeah. I'll add more.
I just wanted to add one thing, because you mentioned microaggression, I just remembered this. So recently in our organization, we had run this campaign called as Updating Your Script. And we did it along with our clients as well, right? Because many of our people just not work with us, but with our clients, and it's important that, there is a seamless experience across. So in that Updating Your Scripts, we came up with a number of words that people generally use, not forgetting that women are also there. Like, for example, in the IT world, whenever we are estimating, we say man hours, right? So we said, no, not man hours, I scope person hours and not man hours. And like that, we came up with a number of quotes, and all of us had it in our background. So I think those kind of small things when you do, right, people start internalizing all of that, and you start seeing a behavioral change over time in the organization.
So I do want to come back, Rachana, to your point on the diversity goals for managers, right? So at Johnson Controls, one of the things that we have done is a certain grade and above, when the hiring is happening, the third level of interview is of the Diversity and Inclusion Council. So we have a council, so they just make sure that the number of resumes that were interviewed are not just men, but the women are there. So there is a check that has been put in place, but not for all grades, of course. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I would also like to add to this point. I think you raised a very valid point of, how many organizations kind of set up these goals. And extremely proud, the way we in Ericsson have our objectives and key results, which talks about diversity, not only in terms of women, but also generation, but specifically now talking about women, both at the entry level, at the leadership level. And you know, it's not just about getting numbers, it's about having that place, coming on the table to be evaluated for those positions. I think that's more important. I think nobody enjoys being handed it over, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I think the biggest thing or the biggest change I see is, yes, there's an equal opportunity, 50-50%. You get an opportunity to get evaluated, to get heard, have those discussions about those positions. And that's a great shift from what was there 15 or 20 years earlier. So a very valid point, but it's very heartening to see that companies are moving in that direction.
Yeah. Thank you. So Venkat, this question is to you, and of course others can chime in. How can organizations measure the effectiveness of their retention efforts, particularly about diversity and inclusion goals? Can you share examples of successful retention strategies that have specifically targeted diverse employees?
So we can look at this problem in two different ways, right? Measuring retention, you have to look at indicators which are lagging and leading. Simple lagging indicators is, what is your retention rate? How many of the diversity candidates you have managed to retain over a period of time? Right? This is one of the dimension. What is the ratio? Right? What is the ratio? We all talked about percentages of people in different levels of their careers, right? Entry level, mid level, senior, and then the exec levels, right? That is one of the indicators that comes in, right? And we also talk about the kind of benefits and other things that we kind of roll out, right? Again, that's more a thought process that comes after we get into an issue. We tend to retrospect and say maybe we should have had this benefit, right? For an organization to be successful, one of the things that we need to do is move a lot further up the value chain and start thinking about retention more from the beginning, right? Even before I hire. Hiring probably is the easiest part, but how am I going to retain this individual? How is this person going to stay in the organization? What kind of framework that we have in place so that we are talking diversity not just as a part of compliance. It's more inculcated into the culture of the organization, right? The organization has to reflect that in their culture. Now at Equinix, one of the things that we do is, we practice this throughout at all the leadership levels, all the management levels, and all the entry level candidates who are coming in too. And this is one area where we are very thoughtful, and we had made a lot of investments in training people. And this is just not training for some certification, it's training with a follow-up. The training has to have a purpose, right? And it is also linked to some of the evaluations that are done, like I think some of you pointed out, right? Implementing is one thing, but how do we measure and how do we make sure there is a continuum for this? So we generally have leadership behaviors tied into people's OKRs. And that OKR basically reflects different way for different levels. People who are at the senior level, execs, etc., right, their compensation is also attached to those DIB goals, which means they have to kind of bring this culture in within the organization. Now, bringing this from top down has a ripple effect where they can cascade it down to the organization. The middle management is also being solidified, right? And the thinking, you all pointed out when we are hiring, we need to have the right mix of people. Start even further, right? Even before you put a requisition for hiring, think about how this is going to be read, how it is going to get interpreted with different candidates. The incumbent should feel that this is a role that I can go and apply for. It should appeal to the diverse class of people. If we don't do that, then we are failing at the starting point, right? And that is where I would say, we have made a huge leap. One of the things we have done at Equinix is established in India in 2021. As an organization, we have grown to about 400 plus over a 2-year span. And we are very focused not just on hiring, we are very focused on bringing in the right set of diversity into the organization. Diversity, I just don't mean gender, it's across. It could be racial, it could be much more than a gender diversity. So these things are basically helping us drive the retention values up, and then creating an environment where candidates who are coming from a diverse background feel it as a safe environment, right? They should feel it's safe and they belong and they matter. And putting their hands up is one thing definitely, but they shouldn't be worried about taking their hands down, fearing some repercussion. Creating that psychological safety that in a group, you are free to express your opinion, right? That creating that environment is what I feel, we need to focus as leaders. And that creates a good sense of retention, a belonging, and people take ownership. There are other things like, how many people are getting promoted each year. And there is a need to deep dive there too, to figure out, is there a bias in that process? How can we mitigate that bias? Those are all factors that will have a longer term impact to create that awareness across diverse groups that they are in the mix of things, right? It's not like we are only focusing on diversity for the sake of it. It is part of the culture. As an organization, there is no differentiation between a person of a certain gender or certain race or ethnicity. It has to come, right from you're looking at an individual and that's it. You have a role, you have an individual. If there is a match, I think that happens. Pay and benefits, etc., are all something we very much focus on. We do a lot of market research. One of the things that we look at is we have global standards, we have local standards. We can't go with a one-size-fits-all kind of an attitude, right? So every periodic basis, we go about evaluating, studying in the market, where we are in terms of benefits and other things that we are offering to all our employees, and then make sure that, we do the course correction as needed. Example in India that, we've been here for the last two plus years. We have gone through several revisions than what we would have done normally. As a growing center, it's more important for us to keep in trend with what the market is evolving around us and then make those right decisions. So these are all some of the factors that have kind of helped us retain the key talent. And I put the word retain key talent. I'm not going to put the word retain diverse talent, right? Yeah. Talent is talent, and diversity just happens to be a mix of things that's in there.
So shifting a gear a little bit, Jyoti, I know you come from a coaching background, so this question is specifically to you. What role does mentorship and sponsorship play in retaining diverse talent within an organization?
Thank you for the question. We started with some statistics, right? You shared about for every 100 men, there are 86 women who would move to the next or the first level of leadership.
Yeah.
I can assure you, for the STEM or the technical roles, that percentage is around 50%. It's even lesser.
Okay.
And why is that? There are, of course, a lot of things. Of course, the social impact and how we are conditioned. But coming down to this, mentorship plays a very big role in the beginning of your career, right? Now, mentorship can be in a way of your technical mentorship, because women, in general, are diligent workers. We want to do our work to a dot of an I, right? We want to be perfect. But when it comes to leadership, and when we need to move in, that's wherein mentorship plays a big role. I personally had multiple mentors. It's not just, from a technical space. It's also, for example, you're engaging with your stakeholders, you're engaging with the customers, building your networks. This is where mentorship is where people share the experiences and guide you in different aspects. I think that's where it helps to, climb the first ladder or the first step. Then coming, as you grow up, something we call as glass ceiling, right? And that's where the sponsorship plays important. And sponsorship is not just that, someone would come and say, hey, Rachana, let me, you should do this assignment, or you should recruit Rachana for this assignment. It's not that. It's about your own work, your own network, your own allies, which you have over, built over a year, where a senior or someone is comfortable to sponsor you, extend his or her network with you, put you in assignments, or maybe, just shadow you what you're doing. And that plays a big role because as an individual, it expands your horizon. Another interesting thing about this is whether it's mentorship or whether it's sponsorship, nothing can happen, as a part of a process. It cannot happen that you and A and B, he is mentor or she is mentor to you, or you're a sponsor, and it will work. It has to come very naturally. And it's a chemistry between those two individuals, understanding what the needs are. And it also really depends on the person herself. I'm saying now herself because we are talking about women, how much she actually exploits or taps that potential. We always think about our jobs, right? I should be the best, I should be the perfect in my job. And I have done it multiple times in my 20+ years of experience. But then there does come a point where you start thinking about the career part. Now you would say job is equal to career. No, you can have a job, you can be perfect into it, but when it's about growing, it's about career, that's where sponsorship really plays a big role.
Just wanted to add something, if I may. I think I agree with Jyoti that mentorship and sponsorship is extremely important for women to grow in their career path and to do well in their job. And as she said, right, it has to click naturally, and there has to be a natural alienation towards somebody, and that person then over time becomes your mentor or sponsor. But sometimes with women what happens is, for whatever reasons, they're not able to have those mentors or sponsors in the organization. And for those kind of reasons, it becomes also important for the organization to create, to make a structured effort in getting you mentors and sponsorship. So I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that we do at Publicis Sapient. We call it the RISE program, wherein people are matched to mentors or matched to sponsors through a scientific process, I would say. We bring in an external partner who talks to our, the proteges and the sponsors and the mentors. We do a survey depending on what they want to do, what the sponsors are interested in, what the mentors are interested in, and then there is a match done. And we've seen, when you do such a match, it works out. But of course, as she said, the person who's getting mentored also have to make the most out of it, and that's when everyone needs to own their own growth and invest in themselves while the organization provides you those opportunities. And I think nowadays a lot of organizations are doing that, which is again a great change.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you the follow-up question. How can companies ensure that advancement opportunities are equally accessible to all employees, regardless of background?
I think that's a good question, good follow-on question. So I think every organization, in fact, every leader in the organization have to make an intentional effort to make sure that, there is no bias and that women are not left behind. I'll again quote the examples of some of the things that we do at an organization level, like whenever there is a training program that is happening, or even for that matter, hiring that is happening, we specifically try and ensure that is there enough women. If it is a training program, have we got enough women who have nominated themselves for this training or who have applied for this program? If it is hiring, have we got enough CVs or not? And then go and do the scrutiny to make sure, to see what is it that is stopping more women to come and apply for this. As I mentioned, I'm a faculty in one of our leadership programs that we run. And then every year when we take in the nominations, and we do that deliberately, right? We go through the whole list, see if there are not enough women that we have applied. We go and personally talk to some of the women, who are actually going to benefit a lot from this program, but they haven't applied. Unless someone goes and speaks to them about what is stopping them to apply. And at times when I've done it, I've realized that they're talking about some constraints which through discussions and because of my experience, I was able to tell them, how they can overcome that and still participate in the program. So it is about, doing some of these things, talking to them deliberately to make sure that if there are some constraints, how are we overcoming that? So also, this is about equality, right? You are trying to ensure that you give equal opportunities. But I think there's also a factor around equity here, because always equality sometimes do not help. Again, quoting our example, right? If I talk about the LGBTQI community, as an organization, we are a preferred, employer for that community, and we've been, without doing a lot of campaigns as well, we've been getting a lot of, CVs and have been able to take people. But when we did a little bit more research, we realized that the trans women or queer women, where some of the community that we did not had a good representation. So what we went ahead and then did an intervention that we started with something called as the Rainbow Internship Program, wherein we took people from that community and provided them with in-house training, support, mentoring, so that they can get into the corporate world. In fact, in my team itself, I've taken almost around 5 of them. We've trained them to get into product role, to get into quality engineering role, because some of the times, you have to really make an effort. You have to create that equity for them. And of course, in other times, it is equality that you need to ensure.
So now moving,
go ahead. Yeah. So I just wanted to add, that in Lenovo we have initiative where we provide financial support to few of the women employees who would want to do courses for their capability development. So it's not just our employees, we also extend it to the spouses of our colleagues. So that's one thing, how you can encourage the capability development for women, right? So they make sure. And when we talk about screening the profiles, right? So I think the best way to actually focus that, whether we have diversity, we should have blind screening. It's the talent, what's the capability we bring in, right? Doesn't matter which gender, which background. So I would suggest, that should be the focus going on for recruitment.
Just to add one more point to that, right? Employee resource groups play a big role in actually divesting the information that is out there. More often than not, people don't understand that there are such opportunities that are available. So one of the things that we do at Equinix is, we have an Equinix Employee Connect Network. But that's like an umbrella of things under which, there are more than 9 or 10 different groups that are available. Could be, historically, groups that have been, historically sidelined, or Women's Leadership Network, right? That's a common forum, which I would presume most of the organization have it in some form or the other. And that is where, we have a lot of leaders coming in. And they talk about different opportunities and capabilities that people can kind of get through to progress in their careers, right? And it's just not about training, right? It's getting the right kind of exposure, access to those leaders, access to the role models. Women generally find it difficult to go maybe to a man and say, I want this kind of help, right? There is some barrier and hesitancy in them, but if they see a similar role model, they would want to approach them first to see, if it is possible for them to grow the way they have kind of, risen in the ladder. Yeah. And that is a very important aspect, right? And how do you disseminate all these opportunities that are available? And the leaders play a very key role, right? And that's why, going back to tying it to their goals and objectives and say, you need to do this versus, this is an optional thing, makes a big impact in an organization.
Sure. So much, so relevant, you shared. And I think that makes it very, very vital. You raised a point, women find it difficult. And it's like, they move to the ERG or look forward to such communities, to kind of this. And I think that's, the ERGs are a stepping stone to an ideal scenario where there is an equal representation at every level.
Yeah.
Because I should not be thinking, that whom do I go to, because I don't see enough at the top, yeah, or at the middle, yeah, or even it might be a level.
Yeah.
So I think the ERG is not a solution, it's a great step, but it's a stepping stone to the eventual destination. And it's a very great example.
Yeah. And I think coming back to the ERG, right, recently we introduced an ERG called caretakers, right, and it is irrespective of whether it is a male or a female, because there are a lot of times when men are also taking care of people at home, right. So I think that's a very different ERG that has been formed, and it resonates with a lot of people, and it could be for anything, it could be for fur babies or, parents or children. So I think that's a broader gamut to, kind of get more inclusive. Jyoti, I would like to ask this question to you, coming back to the topic that Rachana you had brought about microaggressions, right? What steps can organizations take to address microaggressions and biases in the workplace to improve retention rates?
I think, first of all, I would like to explain what microaggressions is.
Yeah.
And explain more what I have experienced till I realize there's a word which kind of cover that or label that. How many times have you guys kind of experienced when you say, you have got this role because you're a female, or we had that percentage of reservation, or of course you had to get this role the way you look. There are many these small microaggressions which each one of us experience it over a period of time. And it's these things, can be, it can really shake your confidence. And I'm sure many of us are not aware of how to handle this.
Yeah.
Because we are not even aware of it at the first level. So how do we handle this? I think the first level is the awareness key. Understand what it is. What does it mean to me? Or am I the one who is doing this microaggression? And it is relevant for everyone, not just women, for men, because we don't even realize whether we are the ones who are doing it or we are the ones who are experiencing it. How do you bring those awareness? The more we talk about it. ERGs play a big role. And I won't just limit it to the diversity, the women, diversity part. Even the generation, the millennials. How many times we do the recruitments and they're youngsters and we kind of say, hey, you won't understand the perspective, or, that's also microaggression. You're kind of insulting the intellect of a young generation who would have a completely different perspective from yours. So the awareness is a big part. What I have, experienced in Ericsson is we do have structured programs about it. Personally, I've gone through two. One is the one with the neurosciences expert from London School of Economics and a collaboration between Ericsson, where these concepts were shared and we understood, okay, this exists and this is not a phenomena just for India. Because another thing is, oh, this happens in India, this doesn't happen in the Western world. No, it's a global phenomena. And everyone really, it was a great eye-opener for me personally. The second part was very interesting. Again, one of the trainings which we had in Ericsson was the use of immersion or AI platforms. Once you're aware of this, how do you react? Whether it is you are the recipient, or how do you become aware of it, right? Whether it is discussions about anything, hiring, retaining, performance management, or in general the conversations, when you have difficult conversations. We were put into a simulated environment where there's an immersion platform and there were questions coming to you and you're reacting to it. It's live responses. And the person responds depending on what you have answered. I think those simulations really helped us who were, the first batch, a couple of years back, to understand what it is.
Yeah.
And there were certain unconscious biases which we became unaware of. So how does an organization, these two are the good examples I would like to share. And the key is awareness. And the key is something very relevant. Now I specifically want to talk about generation also. It's not just about women, it's generation with both boys and girls. How do you understand their perspectives? There has to be a feedback loop.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I understand the millennials.
Yeah.
Because I am not really aware and I'm assuming that I know the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
You want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think I really liked what she said, right? That through simulations, you really could understand what it is and it was an eye-opener for you. And I agree to that, right? Because many a times, we may be the ones who are the source of microaggression. And when you create a scenario, then people realize that, like, one of the things that I wanted to quote, there is an organization which studied multiple teams of ours across India, across other regions, and then they created a play based on, what they have observed amongst our people, and then we were made to watch that play. And then when we watched that play, we were like, oh my God, this is something that we do. And it was again an eye-opener. There were things like, there was somebody who was, there was a woman, for example, who was told that, like, you cannot, there is this role, but you know, your child is so small, so maybe you may not take it, it's all right. And then that woman thought that she could take it, but she was not just given the opportunity. These are also forms of microaggression. Like that, there were multiple examples that were shown, and then we discussed about it, and that really made it very, very clear to us, you know, what it is. So sometimes doing things like this, wherein, you know, you put a situation on the face of the people, is when, you know, the realization happens.
So to expedite the progression towards gender equality, it is imperative that organizations examine and embrace more emerging and leading strategies and establish new standards. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm round of applause to our incredible panelists. Their insights have enriched our discussion today. Thank you all for being an engaging audience. Let's continue learning, collaborating, and driving positive change. Thank you.